Okay, so some time ago I wanted to build myself a watch that was just red and white, and I found these little 37 millimeter cases on eBay and AliExpress and places. So I got one of those, but the color of the bezel inserts is pretty limited. Between back then it was just blue and black for ceramic, and then you had a gray and black and a blue and red Pepsi bezel insert in aluminum for these things. But I've been I was looking around recently, and I found, well, not recently, a couple of months ago, I was looking around. I found a red aluminum bezel insert, so I went ahead and bought that. I was going to try to put that on, but you can't tell from probably from the pictures, but the color of this thing really is more kind of like a little bit like raspberry. It's a little pinkish sort of than the rest of the red on the thing, so it didn't really fit. And plus the the dial is a flat red, and the band is kind of a satin, and the aluminum, the reflectivity on the aluminum bezel just really isn't what I want. So I kind of just stuck that back in the bag and put it by the wayside until something else new comes out. So a couple weeks ago, I was looking for something else, and I went on the Watch and Style website to see what they had, and I came across this little red and white ceramic bezel insert that happens to fit these little 37 cases. And these 37 millimeter cases, if you're looking for one of those, they're kind of analogous to a Seiko SKX 013, and I just call them SKX 13s. But I found this, just ceramic, and it's got great lume in it. Maybe you can't really see that. Ceramic and great lume on it, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing in there today. And so it's not that much of a big build, but we'll see how it goes. So first let me take this band off, and yeah, this thing's pretty dirty, it needs a bath. I'll go through that in a minute and show you how that works. But these bezels are stuck on with some pretty tenacious sticky glue and that kind of tape, those round tape things, you've seen them before. So you kind of have to dissolve those. And sometimes if I was doing this, I would just pop this bezel off the watch before I did this. But if you've tried to get the bezel off of one of these watches, it is insane, because they're not held on like SKX 13. They're held on more like a Vostok, where they have the spring that goes around the inside of the bezel, between the bezel and the case. And they made these things out of some super thick material, so it is really hard to get these things just to pop off. So I'm just going to leave it on the case and melt it away in situ. So I got some goof off. This stuff is basically lighter fluid, I guess you would call it, but it'll melt that glue pretty quick. And when I put it, I did this before in another watch a little while ago, just sort of test it out. And I was pretty ginger, with putting the stuff down in between the crack very easily, but that didn't really go so well. So I'm just going to go ahead and go a little bit more liberal with the stuff and get it down, work it down into the crack so it can get down in there and start melting that adhesive. And I don't think I'm ever going to use this bezel insert again. So after the fact, I'm going to tell you, try not to get it on your paint, because the stuff may melt the paint. I think this bezel insert, the little lume pit popped out, so I'm probably never going to use this again. I don't really like the blue that much anyway. Sour grapes, but let's get that. Try to work that stuff down in there into the crack where it can get to the glue. And the crystal has its own gasket, so it's not like this goof off is going to leak down into the watch movement at all. So I'm not worried about that. It will come out of the sides, so I will have to wipe it off later, but it's not that big of a deal. If it gets on there, everything is sealed up. I can kind of see the stuff seem kind of turning white. I'm wondering if that's not dragging some of that I don't see the white paint on the bezel insert changing at all, but I'm just wondering why this stuff is turning kind of goopy. And you just let that sit for a minute. Then go ahead and start trying to give this thing a little help. And I kind of just want to put some pressure on it to give it to sort of start pulling up on it. I don't want to jank on it real hard. I don't know how brittle these ceramic bezel inserts actually are. Oh, but this thing's already coming up. That's doing pretty good. Let me get underneath there. Yep. Give it some force, but don't force it. Okay, so that came off pretty good. Let's put that over here. And now there's still a... Let me check this in here. That's pretty good. Okay, it seems like the mass of the glue actually stuck to the back of the bezel insert rather than sticking to the inside of the watch like the other one I did. The gluey put the bezel glue tape ring that you use to stick these things on, it stayed down in here, and it was like really kind of, it wasn't hard to get it out, but I had to pick it all out with the tweezers. But it looks like it came out the opposite way, so it makes it a little bit easier for me. Get this back out of the back off of the envelope. Check the back of this is completely smooth. So there's a couple ways you can put this on there. Let me see which way this glue stick is going to go. Yeah, the glue came up with this part. So I can go ahead and get that set down in place. Use the other end of this dry Q-tip to get that down good, get in there. Now here's the finicky. Okay, so now the glue strip is down in there. I put on my loop so I can try to get this really straight. That looks pretty close. Looks like this bezel insert was a little bit thicker than the other one. So I can feel it being proud of the crystal right there. Maybe I'll swap out that crystal sometime. As far as I can tell, that's in there pretty good. Let's check and see if this loom will pop with this thing. Just charging it up for a second. Oh, there it is. That'll look a lot better if you bring it in out of the sun. But for right now, oops, that looks pretty good. So now I'll just go give this NATO strap a little bath and get it all cleaned up. Get that get good and set. All right, so let's go give this NATO a bath. Yeah, so there it goes. Just toss that in there. Put a little blob of whatever kind of soap you have. There's just some whatever. That's my folder. Oh, well, another brush. Here it is right here on the edge of the sink. So here's my little brush I use to wash my bands with. I guess it's for cleaning potatoes. But I use it for giving brushes a little wash. I give them tomatoes a little wash. Sometimes they can get pretty nasty. I remember I had a pulsar. My first watch that I bought for myself was this pulsar on a bracelet. And when I went to school, two of my roommates had the exact same watch. And mine was always getting all gungy with, like sweat and dirt and dust and everything else. And my one roommate's, his was always like perfectly clean. I was like, dude, man, how do you keep your watch so clean? He's like, oh, I just wear it in the shower. I'm like, man, your watch is waterproof. Just wear it in the shower every once in a while. I don't know if you want to wear a NATO band in the shower, but you can keep your bracelets clean. Just wear them in the shower every once in a while. But don't do it every day because you have like minerals in your water, and then it can gunge up and get all over your bracelets. So if it's shiny, it'll dull it out. But they have that CLR stuff, to clean mineral deposits off of your stuff. I'll give it a good rinse. Yeah, any bubbles. I'll just hit it with a towel to let it dry up a little bit. I'll just let it air dry for a few minutes and it'll be good to go. That's pretty a lot better looking than it was. Okay, back to the table. Okay, out of the bath and all dry now. Let's throw this joker back together. Yeah, I'm probably good. Well, that looks okay. Get rid of what I am on. And there we go, solid red and white. I wanted it. That looks pretty good, but now it's always something. Like I said, this bezel insert is just slightly proud of the crystal itself, so I may have to go look into pull out the crystal, see how deep it is, how thick it is, see if I can find one the same size, a little bit thicker. But hold on a second, let me clean this. All right, that looks pretty good. Oops, let me go get the flashlight real quick. Loom juice. Bum, bum, bum. looks pretty good. Even though loom is basically useless, it's cool. That's the reason for loom, just because it's cool. Nobody really needs loom. But lights back on. I have to call this one done for now. Okay, it's a couple hours later, and I was looking at this thing, and I really wasn't. I won't say I wasn't happy. I was just sort of disturbed the way this bezel was sitting so proud of the crystal and of the edge of the case, the edge of the bezel a little bit. So I took it back apart to look at it, to check it out. And what I found was, can you see this? See how it kind of rocks back and forth? Oop. It's never gonna fit in there correctly. So this bezel insert was built for SKS 13, and this is just kind of a generic thing. So I thought originally I thought I could just get a slightly deeper crystal like this is. I popped it out and measured it, and this is a 28.5 millimeters around and 2.8 millimeters thick, and I thought I could just find a 3 millimeter crystal. Well, that was kind of going nowhere. And but in the meantime, while I was looking around, I found out that the SKX 13 actually has a 28 millimeter crystal, not a 28.5. So this thing is destined not to quite fit correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to keep this, because this is the only thing that's keeping this thing the way I want it at the moment. But I'm also working on another project, which is building myself a marine / yacht master out of a actual SKS 13 case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this watch into this case so that this bezel insert will actually fit correctly. And I already checked it out, so I can dump that out. Drop this one in there. You can see it's nice and flush with the edge of the bezel. It's not rocking around. It fits correctly. It's still a bit proud of the crystal, but I guess I'm going to have to live with that. Even though I could, now that I'm looking for actual SKX 13 crystal, I might be able to find something. Look for a generic 28.5 for this thing wasn't working out, so I'm gonna have to take this apart. It's not much to do really. This will pop right into this one. The only thing I'll have to do is recut a stem to fit into the new crown, and then it should be all together nice. Plus I get the advantage of I really didn't like the original bezel that came with the SKX 13. It was kind of sloped inwards. It was hard to grip. And I think this is actually a Marine Master style bezel. So I went in and swapped those out. And I don't know what it was, why it was so hard. I was like over there, trying to get my tool in there, and I could not get that thing in there. And I was afraid I was going to stab myself in the hand. And I've got my big leather glove, and I went over to the tool bench. I put the thing in the crack, pressed down on it, click, it popped right off. So I don't know what I was doing wrong before. But yeah, that thing came right off. So now I have the Marine Master bezel and this crystal. Because the thing was with that crystal sitting up like that, and then I noticed I could actually kind of still move it around a little bit. I really don't want this bezel insert to pop out because, I don't know if you can see this, but $50 for that bezel insert. So I don't want it falling out on the ground and being lost forever or getting cracked or anything. So I'm just going to take the bigger steps to make it fit the way it should and get it all correct, because now this watch is going to blow up, because you see the generic case was $35, and the plan for this Yacht Master, the new case, is $100. That's going to put the price of this red watch up to about $170. When it started out, it was like $205. So I'll go ahead and work on putting it all together, and I'll get back with you in a minute. All right, bye. Okay, I'm back. I had to do some preps. Yeah, I tell you, a slight moment of panic when I couldn't find one of these glue rings to put the new bezel insert down with, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to shelve this whole thing for a couple of weeks. But then I thought I had some, but they were just all in another uh, project build envelope that I have handy. So let's go ahead and start with this. Set that there. Come on. Case off. So sometimes when I'm building a watch, I'll just put the dial in and a little piece of paper towel or something in the back just so I can get a good look of what it's going to look like in the future. So let me just stick that in there like that. See that? Here it is. Okay, so now we got to take this apart. See how tight this is. Sometimes I can do these things in my thumbnails. Maybe not this time. Where's my wrench? You just need enough to break it free most of the time. That's it like that for a second. Guess I can put the movement in here for a minute. And let's get this crown out of there. Oop. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see down in there, there's a little spot where you have to press on it to get the stem out. So let me get that in there. Okay, I'm pressing down on a little lever arm. Comes the stem. I just had to dislodge a little bit. There's that. Here's a new case. Here's the new case. Like that. Yeah, this thing is giving me some grief. You can see where that, oops, you see where the crown is pressed in there. I think it's sticking out just a little bit proud where that thing should be. So the edge of the movement spacing plastic is getting caught on that. So I'm going to have to fiddle around with that for a little bit and see if I can get this thing to seat up. Okay. Okay, so there's no easy way to do this. I'm going to have to get in there with a Dremel and skin off the very end of that thing, but I can't get in there between the camera and between the case. I'm going to do it off camera, and I'll get back to you in a second when I think it's good to go. Well, that went amazingly well. It actually only took about 2 seconds to get that little edge down. Hopefully I don't think I gulled up the threads or anything. No, they look pretty good. Guess I hit that one right on the money for once in a while. Something actually worked the way I wanted to. All right, I'm back a second. Okay, so I debated whether I need to put this thing in the ultrasonic cleaner or not. So I'm gonna go with not. It didn't look that too dirty inside, so I'm just gonna give it a good wipe out with a lint-free cloth and some alcohol. Now I'll take another look and make sure it's as clean as I want it to be. I'm not the cleanest person in the world, but you know, I'm not stupid. I got that a handful of times. Well, a good amount of alcohol in there. I'll go one more time and check it out. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Didn't see any extra dust or any pieces of any extra pieces of sand or whatever comes off of the sandpaper wheels that you come with the Dremel. Yeah, that should do okay. So I got my movement back. Let's see how this does this time. Sometimes if you get it most of the way in there, you put the back on, the back will push it the rest of the way into where it needs to be, more or less. That's pretty much seated up. Now I'll just have to align it correctly for the stem. Let me check that. Okay, I'll move it a little bit. Let's see how this fits up. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now we just have to see how much of the stem we need to take off. I won't need that in a second. Now I got two stems. Which one's which? This one's much longer. It must be the it must be the new one. I'll just stick this one back in there for good keeping, safe keeping. So I don't get confused again. Which is easy for me to be confused. Okay, so there's the old red case. And this is going to be reused pretty quick. I have another build coming up. Nope, not this. I keep them all builds in these little bags, so is this the right one? Yep, so I'll just stick that in there for later. You know, locked in, I can feel it winding. So when you're sizing these things, you want the thing is set where it should be. I think the bottom of this part of the crown should be just barely above these threads. So from here to here is the distance you want to get rid of. So I've done this before with it. You can just stick a little piece of paper in there and put a mark on it, and that's good enough. But I have my mic, so I'll just go ahead and do that and see what the distance looks like. Okay, it looks like it's 6.33 millimeters too long. Oops. Just stick this bezel insert in this bag for the moment. Get it out of the way. Okay, so you take the stem back out. I'm gonna have to get in there. Give me a second. Here's my stem. Back in the pin vise. Do the same thing I always do with the stem turning in the pin vise instead of unscrewing the crown. Pull this out of the vise. Let's see what 6.33 millimeters looks like. I got my pen to make my mark, so let me get it in close. And of course, you want to make your mark. Make your mark slightly shorter than you actually need, because you're gonna end up filing the end of the stem down a little bit. You don't want to make it too short, because that's the cardinal sin for putting in a stem. So I made my mark. Let me come out a little bit. Made my mark. I got my cutters. So let me go ahead and give this a snip. Okay, I'm about 2 threads above that mark, so, and I think the mark was a little short anyway. So now we just got to deburr it a little bit. Where'd you go, Rodico? I'm Mr. Disorganized today, but I don't have anywhere to be. Use that to clean off your threads. Those looks shows they look pretty clean. I'm not gonna need this anymore. Yeah, it's still a little bit too long. I'll just go ahead and pull that back out. Cut it again. Again for another snip. Okay. That cut actually looked pretty good. I'm gonna like to take the top little corner off of those threads, so they'll go into the stem a little bit easier. Let me make sure this thing's tight again. Let's see how this works. Okay, there it is. That's about as close as I can get. You can hear it winding up. Everything looks in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put that case back on. I probably shouldn't. I probably should wait a second. Oops, come on. Get this thing straight. I don't know what it is with me and gaskets, but they always seem to be too big to go back in the hole they came out of. But I do have some spares over in the case, so let me see which one of these is actually going to fit. And vanished. Let's try 29 for some reason. Now 29 is too small. Over 30. All right, 30 seems a little too small too. 31. Last hope. Aha, there we go, perfect. Let me put some goop on it. That looks good. Try to keep from screwing it all up. I can hear the rotor turning in there. Okay, so much for O-rings. Now let's go back to the very beginning where I started hours and hours ago. Trying to stick on this freaking bezel insert. What? Didn't think I had any of these. Now somehow I have two of them. They seem to be the same size. Let's take this. Pull out the middle of the thing that we don't need. Okay, so that's a trap waiting to happen. Fold that in half. Okay. I wish this thing was a little thicker, but kinked up a little bit. Let me see what it looks like in real life. Okay, I think I've got that stuck down good enough. Let me see if I can get this paper part out here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with that. So now I just need to manage to drop this thing. I have to do this without my loop because it doesn't look like it's going in where I want it to. It's like the dial is pushed to the left a little bit. So I'm just gonna have to get this as close as I can. And it looks like it. Alright. It's very flush with the edge of the bezel. Everything still moves. course, what did I forget? You know what I forgot already. Where is it? You're probably screaming at me while I was putting that back on. Bum, bum, bum. Blue Loctite. Got to do it. Alright. At least I didn't tighten that case down too much. Alright, let's let that back out. I think this Loctite might be busted. Generally, I'll just squeeze until a little bubble comes out. Some people put a drop on their little piece of paper. Okay, so that should be plenty. Ground back on. That's pretty tight. That back up. Get the rod echo out here to clean up any extra Loctite because you don't need your stem glued to the inside of your watch. That should be good. Ground back in. Gasket back in. Dust off. There it goes. Now what else did I forget? I've got to here it is. Gotta put this back in here. Got this, but I'm still missing something. Need the spring bars out of the case real quick. Goes back in there. In there. This thing a final wipe down with that. Cloth still has a little bit of alcohol left in it. Hasn't all evaporated. So as it turns out, while I was doing some looking around, I found out the actual Seiko SKX watches are built with what are called fat spring bars. So the holes that are drilled into the lugs are a lot bigger than the ones that are drilled in for standard watches. So here you see on the left is the standard watch lug. You can see the smaller hole in it, and on the right you can see the SKX 13 lug with a bigger hole drilled in it. And right beside here in this picture you can see standard spring bar on the left, and you see it's much smaller than the fat spring bar on the right. So when I put in the normal spring bars, they go into the bigger holes. Let's see if I can get this in there. And there's a space so you can kind of hear them clicking around. These might not be the best spring bars in normal size anyway. So, but I had ordered a watch band earlier, and it actually came with the fat spring bars. So you put in the fat spring bar, and no more play, no more clicking around. Still got a little bit of movement like this, but it doesn't click like this other one does at all. So I went in and got rid of the normal spring bars. Installed the fat spring bars, and everything's good to go. I put it back together. Okay. Finally. On my wrist looking about exactly the same as earlier. But you and me, we know the difference. All right. Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to get things the way you want them. I'll update the my little spreadsheet and get back to you with how much this thing actually ended up costing. I'll go out and get some glamour shots of it in the sunshine sometime. All right. Good luck. Bye.